It is a few days until the month of April. Time is going much too quickly. As always, in literally like a month and a half, I'm going to be done with my second year of uni, which is really scary because then I've just got one more left and then I have to like get a job. Because I was so busy with all of my uni work, I forgot to do a February reading wrap up. So I'm just gonna like mash them both together. I believe the first book I read in February was I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. This is a bit of a Marmite book, I'm pretty sure. So many people hate it and then so many people think it's like their favorite book ever. It's leaning more towards not great for me. I think I rated it like a 3 out of 5 because the start of the book I really didn't like, and then by the end of it I was growing to enjoy it a bit more. It's about this woman who is dating a man who's married. He's like a serial cheater player type guy and she's obsessed with him. She wants his validation so badly. She gets really fixated on the other people that he's dating, specifically this one girl I'm pretty sure is like a bit of an influencer, so she begins stalking her online. It's kind of crazy. The main character is super unlikable. She lets herself get treated so badly by this man. She acknowledges what he's doing but continues to let it happen, and obviously this happens a lot in real life. People are manipulated by horrible men and they let it happen because the small bit of joy that they get from the situation always seems to kind of mask the rest of it. But for me, that's just, ugh, it's so hard to read. Just break up with him. Easier said than done. I've never been in a relationship, so how am I to know? And I think you're meant to not like her. That's actually one of the reasons why I think it's a good book, because it makes you hate her so much. Any writing that can make me feel so strongly about made up characters, I think is really good. I think the main reason why I don't like it though, because it didn't really have much of a storyline. I think I've found out that I really like plot driven stories. Not always, there are some exceptions, and the ending was really disappointing. If you like character, if you like interesting writing, then I think this will be for you. The way it is set out on the page is quite interesting. The chapters are very short. There's no paragraphs. It is quite funny. This is just one of those books that you're gonna have to take the risk on yourself. You could love it, you could hate it. Luckily it's quite short, so if you do end up hating it, it's not like you've wasted loads of time. So that was my first book of February, and then I'm pretty sure I went on to, god, this feels like ages ago that I read it, but that is Notes on an Execution by Dania Kukafka. This was shockingly good. I've really not heard much about this book on social media. This came out 2 years ago, so I think I probably missed the hype around it. I just picked it up randomly. I was like, yeah, let's try this, because I'm usually really picky with crime. It's about a man who is on death row, and I think he's got like 12 hours until they kill him. We follow him on his way to the chair. However, interspersed between seeing his journey, you go back in time to his victims and the story surrounding them. He has a very interesting story. It doesn't excuse what he did, obviously, but it explains it. It's one of those crime books where there are lots of hidden clues dotted throughout the story, and then right at the end they all start to come together, and it's just so satisfying. And like I said, it's like alternating chapters, so again the pace is very quick. I can't recommend this book enough, actually. This might be my favorite book of the year so far. I think it is. And that's saying something because I've read some really good books. Please go and read it. Book number 3 was weird. It was really strange. It's called The Discomfort of Evening by Lucas Reinveld. I'm pretty sure they've got a new book coming out, which I think I will pick up because this was interesting. This is a story of a 10-year-old girl whose family experiences a very traumatic accident. From then on, she kind of starts having these really weird like fantasies and starts doing these weird things. I don't really know how to describe this without like saying what happens. I'm almost 100% certain that the little girl is neurodivergent because, I mean, first of all, she wears this red coat and like won't take it off. She also kind of says and does things that aren't like the social norm. Then again, she could just be a 10-year-old. That's the amazing thing though. Us as readers get to actually be immersed into the point of view of a 10-year-old, and I think this is pretty accurate. Not that I remember what it's like to be 10, but I feel like this is it. It's definitely got some controversial topics. There's some very uncomfortable scenes. I think the scenes are pretty realistic to what a child thinks. There's a lot of like sexual scenes between children. I know that sounds really awful, but when you're young and you don't know anything about sex, a lot of things can be very confusing, and I feel like that is what she's kind of going through and trying to muddle in her brain. Like, she'll do things that are very mature and adult, but she is so young that she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, it's all innocent, and it happens because they're in a rural town and it's very religious, and they aren't educated about what sex is and what the human body does and all of that, and I think that's very realistic. I don't know if I've just put off loads of people, but I thought it was really interesting. There definitely are quite a few triggers in this book, so I would definitely try and search those up before you get it. If you like weird books, this is one for you. The next book that I picked up is the one that kind of halted my reading roll, let's say, and that is by no means because it's a bad book. In fact, I think it's very good. It's just big and it's long. My attention span doesn't really like that right now. One of the main things that I'm struggling with in this book is the size of the text. It's very small, and that actually makes me read so much slower. This book is Babel by R.F. Kuang. Is it Babel or Babel? Babel makes more sense, but it's spelled like this, so I think it's Babel. Tiny writing. It really does my head in. If this book was like double the size just because, you know, they had to enlarge the text, I would be reading it so much quicker, but because it's small text, it's genuinely like it's taking me so much longer. I know I could just get a Kindle and change the size of the text, but I like physical books, so I'm just gonna have to struggle through this one. I started this book, I don't know how long ago, like at least 3 weeks ago, and I'm only just over halfway. It is a book about a young Chinese boy who was taken from his hometown, Canton, I think, and he was brought over to England by a university professor at Oxford University, and he was taught English so that he could go to Oxford University and become a linguist. There are themes of racism, colonialism, class, sexism. There's a whole lot going on, which is another reason why it's a heavy book to read. I've seen so many videos of people crying at the end of this book. Right now, I can't really see why. Something bad is gonna happen, and yeah, I don't know if I'm prepared for it. I'm at the point where he's been allowed to stay. I don't want to ruin it for anyone, so that's all I'm gonna say. Some of my favorite things about this book so far is the relationship between the two boys. I think their friendship is really sweet, and then also between the girls as well. There is a duck outside my window. There's 2 ducks. They've strayed very far from the pond. Those 4 as a friendship group are just so fun, and I love the dynamic. They're all so different and they play off each other so well. I also really love the little etymology lessons that we kind of get in this, and also there's a lot of history in it. I think it's true. I actually don't know if it's true, if she's like fictionalized it all, but it feels so real. I feel like I've explained this book very badly. The actual purpose of them studying the languages is in order to work with these like magical bars. There's bars of silver, and on one side will be the English word, and then on the other side will be a word in another language that means the same thing, or there's links between them. Once you've created a bar like that, you can use it to increase like the efficiency of something, increase the power. For example, they had one that was like boat and then another word for boat in another language. You could put it onto ships and it would make the ships move faster. It's a metaphor for knowledge and power, and having more knowledge supposedly makes you more powerful. It's a heavy book, and that's why I'm taking so long to read it. Because it was kind of taking me so long, I did take a break from this book and I actually listened to an audiobook, which I never do. If someone's reading a book to me, I think I find it really difficult to concentrate. However, this book that I did listen to, I actually quite enjoyed. It was quite funny and lighthearted, and that book was Good Material by Dolly Alderton, which is her newest book. I wanted to listen to it because I wasn't sure if I wanted to actually buy the book, especially because it's her first book written from a male perspective. It's about a guy who has just broken up with a girlfriend who he'd been seeing for like a really long time, and he is not taking it well. He's a comedian who's kind of struggling in his career. All of his friends are married and have kids, and yeah, so everything's kind of going wrong for him. Honestly, he's just a bit pathetic. He's definitely another unlikable character. The book as a whole was actually quite funny. I listened to that and it was very easy to keep track of. I could do other activities whilst I was listening, and that was something that I really needed because I was doing so much uni work. I didn't want something like this which I had to really focus hard on. I needed something light and playful. I'm still gonna rate it like a 3. It wasn't great and it wasn't terrible. It was just kind of something to pass the time. There were lots of like relatable parts to it. It really reminded me of Really Good Actually. Very similar books, just one's a guy's perspective and the other is a girl's perspective. I also started listening to Ghosts by Dolly Alderton, but I ran out of hours on Spotify Premium because apparently you can only have like 7 for a month. So that was the 4th book that I actually finished. It was mid, it was okay. I went back to this, I read a little bit more, and again I needed another break. So then I picked up Hot Milk by Deborah Levy, and I literally finished this book today. I really enjoyed this. I rated it 4 stars. I think it was beautifully written and there was a lot of symbolic imagery. There's a lot of animal imagery, like the chained up dog, the snake, jellyfish in the sea. All of those kind of reflect what is happening within this woman's life. It's about a woman who has been looking after her ill mother from, I think it was the age of 5. They can't figure out what is wrong with her, so they've gone to Spain to a special doctor to see if he can help her. And he's kind of not like a normal doctor, he's more psychological. And whilst they're there, she meets a few people and has relationships with them while she's trying to figure out her own life, while she's trying to figure out her mum's life. I kept finding myself wanting to highlight a lot of the quotes. I have read some criticism about how there's not really much of a storyline, but like I said earlier, this is kind of one of the exceptions to me needing a plot-driven story. This is definitely more about character and actual writing. That was the 2nd book I finished this month. Oh God, guys, it's been so slow. Fingers crossed in April I can read a little bit more, and I thought I would show you 2 of the books that are on my April TBR. The first book I think I've showed you before, and that is On the Savage Side by Tiffany McDaniel, and it's about some bodies that get washed up at this river that these sisters like to go to. So far I've only read good crime books this year, and so I'm hoping this is going to be good as well. I'm actually very excited about this one. Obviously I'm going to try and finish Babel, but then the 3rd book that I hope to read in April is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I've seen a lot about this on TikTok and on Bookstagram, and so I thought, why not just give it a go. I loved Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I did not like the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I actually didn't finish it. I mean, I guess it's kind of 50-50 because if I didn't like Shadow and Bone but I did like Six of Crows, I could love or hate this book. I don't know, I like secret societies, and this is about a secret society at Yale. There's forbidden magic, which is very similar to this. For some reason I feel like this is going to be easier to read. I think it's more YA focused. I'm excited about this. Let me know what you've been reading recently and maybe what you want to read in April, and if you've read any of the books that I just did, let me know if you agree with me on anything. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.